Hi, everyone. I'm Mindy. I'm the president of Clothier Design Source and the Apparel Mentor. And today we are talking with Xochil about what she does and kind of her experience working with some apparel mentoring members that we've had go through our community and through our program, and also learn a little bit more about what she does. So, Xochil, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Great, thanks, Mindy. So my name is Xochil Herrera-Shear. My company is called the Chicago Patternmaker, and I work with brands, many startup phase brands, but people who are looking to kind of create their creative design concepts and go through the product development phase, sourcing, pattern making, tech packs, and kind of get them through prototyping, get them ready for production is the ultimate goal.
Awesome.
So, yeah, we've
I
met.
I was gonna say, I bet you're very busy. Everybody needs that.
Yeah, it's very busy. There's no shortage of like new businesses starting up, and I think it's a good time for small businesses in general. So yeah, good for both of us.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Yeah, so I've run a couple different companies. I'll talk a little more in depth about them. So I have a factory, a apparel factory called Clothier Design Source, as you know, Xochil. And we've been around since like 2006. And we've helped, someday I should count, but I mean, it's thousands of brands, most of them startups over the years, helped them take their idea from their head and get it through that development process you were saying, and then also manufacture it, in larger quantities so they can start selling it. And something I've loved through that whole process is the educational part and just like helping them understand the apparel industry, because it's like nuts, right? I always say it's like the Wild West. I feel like there's
Totally.
there's like no standardization, and there's no like set process, like that people go through. It's just sort of like everybody's shooting from their hip and figure it out. And so since 2006, it's been my passion to like basically take that chaos and try to it and help people learn like these are the best practices, these are the best steps to get there. And so anyway, the factory has just gotten so busy over the years that because that's what I love to do, is like that educational part and that mentoring and that consulting. I started a second company called the Apparel Mentor, where we have those new entrepreneurs come into our community and we meet with them once a week, and we have topics we go over, and they kind of go through this whole program learning about the industry and how it works, which is how you and I really got connected to talk today, because we have some people going through our like program and our mentoring, and now they're coming to work with you.
Yeah.
Because they've learned about the industry, but now they need to go, hire that pattern maker. And so that's why we decided to talk, because I think you were having some good experiences, hopefully, with those people, and just wondering how that's going, really.
Definitely. As you can imagine, and as you know well, people come from kind of all different backgrounds as kind of design entrepreneurs. Many of them obviously didn't go through fashion school or really know anything about the industry. And of course, like you said too, like the industry is kind of crazy. There's people who've been in it, 40, 50 years, and they don't want to give the time of day often to the new people. Some that do want to help are kind of jaded by the fact that so many people knock on their door and call their phone. And so it's hard to get them to pay attention to you. And having some education, having some knowledge about terminology and kind of knowing what you're talking about gets people to take you more seriously. And even myself, who I also love, kind of new entrepreneurs and kind of love helping them through that process and understanding it. I just simply don't have the time to educate them on everything. So I love being able to, send them to you, send them to the Apparel Mentor, and they can get that education. And really they come back with a better knowledge base. They ask better questions. I had one recently who we were talking about grade rules, and she's like, oh, I did my homework. We actually just talked about this in Apparel Mentor, and I've got my brands that I've researched, and here's the spreadsheet. And we could really have a good conversation and figure out what's a good size chart for her brand, versus someone who would have no idea what grading even is. And there's a whole lot of education there.
Yeah, no, it's so wonderful to hear. I mean, that's the goal, is I want to help these new entrepreneurs so when they go work with people like you in factories and fabric vendors, and they at least have some semblance of like knowledge of what they're talking about. I think it'd be interesting to kind of hit on that point, or reiterate that point you said, that you don't have the time to educate them, right? And that's one thing I try to teach people. I'm like, fabric vendors, factories, pattern makers, what do? Pattern makers make patterns. Factories cut and sew garments. Fabric vendors sell fabric. They don't have time built into that process, right?
Exactly.
To educate you, to just get you to that base level so you can have like a communication about what they want, right?
Right.
And I mean, that's what it's all about, is just like, and I'm always like, it's not because they're snots, right? It's not because they're sassy or like they're whatever, and they don't want to give you the time of day. It's just literally, if you were to build that into your pattern making process, for instance, you'd have to bill them like an extra 6 hours to 10 hours just to get them to like a base level of knowledge so you could talk about a pattern, right? And and you don't have the time for that. You want to make patterns, and
I want to take other clients, obviously, like that takes away from any time available to do other projects. And of course, same with the factory, fabric vendor, et cetera. Like we all are serving so many people that we just, it's not because we don't like it or want to or have the knowledge. We just, it's all about time.
Yeah, exactly. And people, I think, just, there's this, I don't know if you find this, but I find a lot of new entrepreneurs kind of jump into it thinking it's just going to be kind of easy, or like, maybe not easy, but just like, well, they're just kind of expecting you to guide them. And you do, I know you guide them, but you can't guide them on like super fundamental basic stuff, right? That needs to be known just to have a conversation. Like,
totally.
Yeah, like that's kind of, and that's missing. And it's not missing because they're stupid or anything. Like I said, the industry's confusing. So it's
constantly changing. It's like old school mixed with, new tech. It's a lot of different things going on. And I think the biggest thing is the time. And also like, it makes me, and I think other colleagues, like it makes me take someone more seriously if I know that they've done some homework and they have some educational background, and they're like, oh, I like taught myself how to sew. I suck at it, but I like attempted it and I kind of understand how it works. Or I took this course and I know what I'm talking about, or I bought some books. And if you're starting a business, you've got to take it seriously and invest in yourself, invest that time and education. And it's only going to make everything in your life better.
Right. And I kind of like to paint a picture. I don't know how many inquiries you get a week or a month or a day, whatever, but I know,
yes,
like my factory gets, I think, like 150 a week.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not alone, and I'm sure, I think you're a one-woman show. So like, even if you got 10 a week, like how could you even make patterns and talk to all 10 people? That would be
right.
Like, so I guess I'm trying to paint a picture that all of us in the industry are literally inundated with inquiries, right? Like new entrepreneurs that want to start a line and they want help. And when you get busy, you start picking and choosing, right? Who you want to work
Absolutely.
with,
Yeah,
right?
sift through that email box and be like, okay, who seems the most viable? Who seems the most prepared? And if it's just, hey, help me with my line, I'm like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
can tell me, hey, I've gone through this course, I have these 5 styles I'm working on, and like, you know, can give some basic information, I'm like, oh, I'm interested, or show me a mood board, show me your sketches, you know.
Right. Yep. And so, yeah, so you get, let's just say, I don't know, 20 inquiries a week, right? And you can
Right.
only take on one new client every other week, or I'm just making stuff up, but
Totally, yeah.
something like that. You're going to go through those 20 inquiries, read what they're saying, and be like, I only have time to talk to these 3 because they're the most viable, and I'm probably only going to work with one of the 3.
Right.
And I'm just going to basically tell the other 17, sorry, we're not a good fit. And
Good luck.
yeah, and good luck, because I can tell you haven't done any homework. I can tell you're not prepared. I can tell you're going to want me to spend a ton of time educating you. And I'm here to make patterns, right? And do my other development services. And I don't have, that's not what I do. It's not what I have time to do. So
Exactly.
yeah. And that's why the Apparel Mentor program exists. Like, that's exactly why. And it's what I like to do. I'm like super passionate, super passionate about helping people get to that level where they can get a vendor to take them seriously and have a decent conversation.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's hard for people who are looking out there at programs. Obviously, there's other courses out there. There's other things that people are launching. I mean, people have even told me like, oh, you should launch an educational course. Like I teach part-time at Columbia College in Chicago. I'm like, that's enough. Like, I don't need to start a course and do this. Like, but I do want to, you know, send people to someone I trust. I mean, I've been to your factory. I know you really well through, you know, trade organizations that we both belong to. I have seen firsthand clients of mine that have gone through the program. And so that's why I want to recommend them to like a good source versus just like, oh, go Google and find, go find whatever out there, because not everything is necessarily created equally.
Right. Well, thank you. That's really nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We also in the Apparel Mentor like to recommend your services at pattern making too, because that's one of the early steps that we teach people you're going to need.
Absolutely.
You can't cut and sew anything without a pattern, right? So, and then we teach them what is a pattern, because some people don't know, you know.
And the difference between a pattern and a tech pack.
Yes.
A lot of people be like using like interchangeable terms, like these are not quite the same thing. They go together. You need both, but
Yep. Exactly. Very cool. Trying to think what else we could chat about.
Do you guys do services like fabric sourcing within within Apparel Mentor? We could touch on maybe,
That's a great question.
or like giving them like resource, I don't know, like sourcing resources, something like that.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, maybe we should jump to
like features or like
what's in the program, or like some more meat that's in the program. And you can ask questions as I go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that works. Yeah. All right, so I'll ask you the question then.
Okay.
So Mindy, tell me about what is included in the program, or what like kind of topics do you go through with the designers?
Yeah. So the whole thing is built off of the process that I developed at my factory, helping entrepreneurs. So that's, having those, gosh, how many years has it been now? I got to do quick maths. 10, 15 years, 15, 16 years of doing that and taking that process and packaging it in like educational way. So what we offer in the program is it's 20 topics basically. And we go through one topic a week. And we start from idea, like literally just assuming everybody's kind of in a different spot when they come to us, but it's super great to kind of even review. But we start from idea. You got an idea in your head, then what, right? And so we kind of get that onto paper, and talk about the viability of it. And we sort of challenge, like, why are people going to buy it? And, what's different about it? And we spend a little bit of time on that. And then we jump into the real focus of the program. We kind of want to make sure you've thought about, like, is this a good product? But then we jump into the meat of the program after that, which is, what do you do now that you have it on paper? What are the steps you do? We teach them that you need patterns, which is, what you offer. But we teach them, like, why do you need a pattern? What is a pattern? What's the difference between a pattern and a tech pack? We do spend a lot of time teaching them the difference between a new pattern maker fresh out of school and, the quality of patterns you'll get from an experienced pattern maker, and how that really dictates your fit and, all that stuff. And then we teach them, like, how to approach a pattern maker and vet them and make sure they're going to be good for your brand. And then what kind of information you need to give them to work with them. Then we jump into fabrics, fabrics and raw materials, trims, which is, as you probably experienced too, probably the biggest hang up in the whole process. Because, number one mistake is they run to Joann Fabrics, right? and they go get fabric, and Joann Fabrics is made for crafters and quilters, and you can't find apparel fabric there. And so we teach them, like, a whole different way of, like, looking at how do you shop for fabrics. We have resources. When you join the mentoring program, we have an app that you download. And so when you become a member, you get access to all those resources. So we have a whole list of fabric vendors that service smaller, new brands. Because, as you know too, there's fabric vendors that won't.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know people who jump and go to Magic or Text World or something, which is great, but then they kind of get hung up because they're like, I can't buy 3,000, yards of material or something like that.
Yeah. So we kind of just lay that world out for them. Like, this is that fabric world. There's these big guys, there's these small guys. This is how they work. And then again, this is how you approach them. This is what you need to have ready before you approach them, so they take you seriously. So your email stands out away from the 100 other emails they got that week. So right. they help you. And like I said, we have the resources, and then all of our mentors are super knowledgeable in the industry. So we're able to really kind of point them even more narrow direction, like, oh, okay, you want this kind of fabric, you should try this vendor, and this vendor. And we kind of just guide them through that process. And then we go into the prototyping process, and just how that all works, and to plan on reiterations. And when you get your first prototype, don't panic. It's like that's where the psychology comes in and the therapy comes in, right? Like, everyone panics, and then you're like, no, this is normal.
Yep. So much testing, especially that first prototype. It's the first time you're working with your fabric, you're testing your pattern. And even though you've maybe referenced some, retail garments and obviously your design sketch and specs, it's like, we're still testing it. You got to make sure the machines are doing what, the fabric wants to do, and how can you make that all work together?
Yeah.
And of course the fit.
Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes the function too, they would have to go test
Absolutely.
for whatever they're using it for. So yeah, so we spend a lot of weeks on that because that's a big kind of long process, as you know.
Yeah.
And just how to evaluate your prototypes, how to communicate about them, all that kind of stuff. And then after that, we dive into really getting ready for production, you know, and tech packs, finalizing your tech packs, and again, what they are, what they're for, why they're important, how to find a tech designer, how to, you know, how to get your tech packs made. And then just preparing for production and finding a factory. And that same exact, like the same kind of process. How do you find a factory that fits for you? How do you talk to them? How do you get them to take you seriously? You know, and
Finding that like the timing is so crucial there too. It's like you want to have those components, the tech pack pattern complete, or at least be able to speak to like, this is coming, here's what I can send you now. Otherwise, I guess the factory is also not going to take that seriously either.
right.
They need that next order. They need to fill their calendar, just
Yeah,
like the rest of us. So
yeah,
if you
yeah,
go in and you're just like, I need whatever, you're going to get ignored. And again, not on purpose.
yeah,
Not someone doesn't want to work with you or help you, but just because
yeah,
they can tell if you're prepared or not.
right, exactly. So just like as an example, get, you know, an email my factory might get is like, hi, my name's whatever. I want to make dresses. Please let me know if you can make dresses for me. Right? Like
Right.
you probably get emails like that, like just kind of.
Sometimes, yeah.
And then the next email comes in, it's like, hi, my name's whatever. I'm starting a dress line. It's for teen girls and it's about being modest. And I have 3 styles and they've already been patterned and I have tech packs and I'd like to make this many units.
Yep.
Can we chat? Now my radar goes up, right? Now I'm like, oh,
Exactly.
okay, this person sounds like they're pretty close to being able to manufacture. They know what they're talking about. They have a plan. You know, they've done their research. Like, I know when I get on the phone with them, I'm not starting from like square one, like, whoa, whoa,
Right.
whoa, whoa, wait a minute, you're not ready for manufacturing. They're like,
Call me in a few months when you are, but yeah.
right, yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of that's the difference we're talking about, like those people that are prepared and those people that aren't. Yeah. So in the Apparel Mentor, that's like what we're doing. And we're not teaching people how to sew. No, it's not design school. We're not teaching people how to design. We're not teaching people, you know, how to make a tech pack. Although we give like, you know, some base knowledge there where somebody might be able to be scrappy and figure it out, but we're teaching how to go find a pattern maker that can make you successful. And
Right.
we're teaching where, at what point in the process do you do that and why, and how, you know, how do you make sure it's a successful process? And then we move on, you know, we do that through all the steps. Because, you know, my thought is, and I don't know if you'd agree, but they're entrepreneurs, they have to run the business that, you know, you can't be the pattern maker, the sewer, the
Right.
fabric sourcer, the factory, and the business owner and the marketing person. Like,
Totally.
you know,
Well,
and
and even I work with some people who, did train as designers and like can make a good, good enough pattern. It maybe isn't good enough, still needs to be cleaned up for production to work with a factory professionally, but they have some of that knowledge. But if their business grows to a certain point, like they need to hire someone to help them with that and focus on the sales and the marketing, because really that's the way you build your business. So it's
right,
easier, to hire someone to do your tech design, someone to do your patterns and prototypes, obviously someone to do your production, and then just focus on like running the business and making money.
Right. Yeah. And I I find too that people, even people that have gone through design school and know how to sew and make a nice design and pattern, and they can make a sample, they're still a lot of times lost on the things that we teach in the Apparel Mentor, like, which is how the industry works and how you get the stuff done, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one thing to make it yourself. And I feel like that's the whole kind of project run rate, syndrome, is like you see only part of it and you think, okay, it's really easy. And it could be easier to make one of something that never has to be reproduced. But when you're sending it off to, multiple parties that are dealing with it, and you're making multiples, hundreds, thousands of units sometimes, it has to be the same, and you have to ensure everybody's on the same page. So that's the only way to do
Yeah.
it, to like work the way that the industry works.
Yeah. 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 And then like the industries, like you mentioned earlier, it's kind of like this old mixed with new and technologies and stuff. But even the way the industry works, like some of the best factories I know, I don't even think they have websites.
Right.
Like you can't, like, a lot of things aren't Googleable. It's
Definitely.
this sort of like underground industry, it feels like. And part of it, I think, is everyone's hiding from those entrepreneurs.
They very well, yeah, they could be. They're kind of offline, referral only, and that's why it's good to have that network. And like pattern makers are networked with factories, and everyone's working together. And once I've worked with a factory, like, okay, I can trust if I know a pattern is coming from Xochil, it's going to be good. So they'll trust a referral when I send them, a brand to work with. Whereas the brand might reach out directly and not get the time of day, unfortunately. And I'm sure you
Yeah,
have this with your referral network too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. hmm Yeah, so that's what we teach in the Apparel Mentor, and it's like we meet once a week. It's a membership based, like a monthly membership based fee. Um, I mean, I think it's like amazing value because that you get a mentor once a week with with a group of people. You're hearing their issues, you're sharing your issues, and then we go over that topic of the week. And yeah, so it's just really nice to hear that anybody who's gone through our program is like, it's working. You're finding that they're like
Definitely.
prepared, and I bet you're getting things done faster with them too, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in my inquiry form, one of the things you check off is like, do I have fabric? And anyone who's like, yes, I have fabric source, immediately, that makes me happy, because it is the biggest hang up in the beginning. It's like, okay, great, we have your design, we can maybe start your tech pack, but we can't obviously finish it, and we can't start your pattern until we know what we're making it out of. So sometimes that process takes months. And if they're reaching out to me at the correct time when they have that already kind of selected, or maybe they're considering a couple of things, but it's not like starting from square one. That really helps. And obviously when they mention things like I'm an Apparel Mentor or something, that's going to pique my interest as well. So I know they know some things, even if they're still in the program, they know enough that we can
Yeah,
have really good conversations and work more efficiently. And ultimately that saves them money. If I don't have to spend so much time kind of project managing and consulting with them, I can focus better on the task.
right, right. Yeah. What would you say, like, the number one thing you wish people knew, entrepreneurs knew before they came to you? Like, what's the thing you're just always teaching over and over again, or at least either not teaching because you don't have the time, but that's what they're lacking?
Yeah. Fabric knowledge, or like any kind of textile knowledge, is a big one. Usually people will at least know like knit woven differences, but even that sometimes will happen, which shocks me.
Yeah.
But just that kind of understanding that just because they see, you know, a certain fiber content on a label in their in their leggings or something like that, that, oh, I'm just going to tell the fabric vendor this is what I'm looking for. And like there's so much more information on what you need, like what, you know, what's the weight, what type of a knit is this, you know, obviously if it has spandex or something, maybe there's a percentage range that it could be, but there can be so many things that are the same fiber content that are completely different. And people will buy stuff online and be shocked when it comes in, like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And then another big one I would say is like, yeah, again, like the tech pack versus pattern. People don't quite understand how they are different. And that one is like your document that goes with it and explains your sewing instructions, etc. But, you know, goes hand in hand. And like, you do need the pattern as your template to cut out your fabric. I've had inquiries too where they're like, oh, I just need a proto and I don't need a pattern. Like, you know, I'm a pattern maker. Like, you do need a pattern. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
No, there's funny things like that.
Yeah. And that's when you're just like, whoa, okay, this person
Yeah.
needs 4 or 5 hours at least of reading or education or something before we can even get to the point where we talk about helping them. That's interesting. I was going to say, yeah, the number one like newbie alert, right? Like, oh, okay, this person's a newbie, is when they say, oh, I know what fabric I want. I want 98 or, you know, 90% rayon and 5% modal and 5% spandex or whatever, right? And then they're like, I know what I want. And that's like the biggest tell that in the industry that we're like, red flags, sirens going up, like this person doesn't know what they're talking about. And yeah, so it's not, the label's not like the full ingredients list.
Right.
Like, I started this analogy the other day. I was like, I think I was talking about like dessert, like say if you wanted somebody to make you a dessert, like as an analogy to fabric sourcing, right? So you're like, I want you to make a cupcake for me. And you're like, okay, I can make you a cupcake. And you're like, it's flour based. And you're like, okay, awesome. I can make you a flour based cupcake. And that's like literally the only information you give them to get that cupcake, right? You could get like 1 million different kinds of cupcakes.
Right.
And that's the same thing for fabric. Like if you just tell me the content, it's missing the rest of the ingredients list and how to cook it, right?
Right.
So it's like, but if you want like
I know it's a cupcake.
right, you might not even know it's a cupcake. You just know it's a dessert at that point. You want a dessert and it's flour based, right?
Right.
And that's it. And so you could end up with a sheet cake, you could end up with a cupcake, you could end up with a pie. Like, you know, it's like
Could be anything.
Yeah. So people just, that's how vague what on your label, whatever the label in your clothes says, that's how vague it is. Like you're just gonna get a dessert, but Lord knows what kind, right? Like, and so we spend 3 whole weeks talking about this topic in the Apparel Mentor. And I could probably spend 20 weeks on it, but 3 full weeks are dedicated to this topic because it is pretty complex. But by the time we get you through those 3 weeks, you're kind of armed with, you know, this is how the world works. This is the ingredients list you need. And, you know, this is how you find out that ingredients list, basically, of what you like. But
that's awesome. And it makes my job as a pattern maker so much easier when they're like, this is my exact material, or like my makeup of materials, and they can say more than just the fiber content. They can say, okay, this is a Ponte knit, this is, you know, 300 GSM, this is coming from this vendor, you know, all of that type of information. Like, excellent. I know that you know what you're talking about. We're ready to, you know, make a pattern.
Yeah, because you can't make a pattern without knowing that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the common misconception. You're like, I got my sketch, I've got my measurements. I'm like, well, depending on how much it stretches, depending on the drape, the how stiff or heavy or flowy a fabric is, I'm going to make a pattern completely differently, to
Yeah.
accommodate it. So, and also I can't make it with a little tiny swatch. I need something substantial usually to be able to really know how it's going to work.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Very cool. Well, it's been great talking to you.